It's recording now.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you everybody? I know that everybody's in a hurry and you came early today, so I know that you're looking forward to signing over. So today's topic, inshallah, as the theme of the symposium is active learning. There is actually a constant that I plan my session to be active learning in action, and then Peter, Luke, and Tony, prepared the same topic almost. And you might find some of the materials similar, like the same definition. Some of the things that I adapted in my presentation were adapted in today's morning presentation. Okay, so but we have a practical part that's inshallah going to go. Yeah. So this is our topic today: active learning strategies in action. It's the light. So this is an overview of the session. Inshallah, at the beginning we are going to look for the definition of active learning strategies. What are they? And then the objectives of active learning. Why do we try and apply this? Again, this is something similar to this was mentioned in today's morning session. And why are active learning strategies instructionally important for our students? Okay, for our ELI university students. And then there's so many active learning strategies that can be adapted in the classrooms, but because we are asked to design a workshop for only 15 minutes or 45 minutes, I believe. So I couldn't, add too many activities or too many strategies. I just selected 5 of the most commonly used strategies, like think, pair, and share, effective user simulations, understanding what's behind the written text, and infusing humor into class sessions, integrating games and competitions into classrooms. And then we are going to have a practical part. I'll do part of it, and then Brother Wolf is going to continue this. For the first thing, we're going to think of active learning strategies. First, I want you to ask a very simple question. How can we define strategies? What are strategies? What do we mean by the word strategy? A tool, could be a technique for doing something, a style, a way of achieving something, but it has to be oriented through a goal. Before thinking of a strategy, you need to think of a goal before designing a strategy. The strategy is actually designed to go, or to lead you towards a specific goal, okay? And active learning, how can we define active learning? The involvement of students. The involvement of the students. Getting students to do something. And not just doing something, as Peter mentioned today in the morning, not just doing, being aware of doing it, thinking about it. So this is a definition that was mentioned today in the morning. Active learning, it's from Bonwell and Easton in 1991. Active learning instruction strategies include a wide range of activities that share the common element of what? Can you complete the missing word?
Involving students.
Involving, exactly, yes. Involving students in doing things, and what about things they are doing? And reflecting, yes. Thinking, exactly, yes. Reflecting and thinking. So it's not just doing something, but also thinking and reflecting. Objectives of active learning. The same proverb again was mentioned today in today's session. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand.
You tell me I forget.
Yeah.
There's one.
Yeah, it's just similar. It's just similar.
This is the Chinese book.
This is a Chinese
But
one.
he said he wasn't in China. He said that they never heard of it.
In China, they never heard of it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so non-Chinese people know it about China, but Chinese don't. So the first objective of any learning in general is to go behind the pleasure of learning. So we learn to achieve a specific goal, but learning here is not just meant to achieve a goal, it helps you to discover what's behind this goal. Okay? Learning should enable our students not just to be successful or to join a specific college, they need to learn how to educate themselves later, how to search for information, how to reflect on the kind of information that they are learning. So it should allow us to go further more easily, not just reaching a specific goal, but they need to go deeper than this. It helps students not only learn the content, but also develop critical thinking. Okay? So they need to think about each kind of activity or each piece of information that's presented to them. And that throws a kind of burden on the teacher's shoulder, is to create an opportunity for learners to be able to read, write, listen, speak, think, reflect on different ideas. So you need, or as a teacher, need to create the kind of opportunity for learners to do things. Why are they important for our students? Can you guess? Why do you think that active learning strategies could be useful in our context in the year life? Can you think of something?
Lack of motivation.
Lack of motivation from the side of our students? Yeah?
Raising their attention rate.
Yeah? Attracting their attention?
Our module is very fast-paced.
Sometimes, yeah, the module is fast, like this one. It's short and you need to cover lots of material. But do you think that that saves time if you are aware of you need to apply active learning strategies so that saves time? I think it consumes more time.
But it does. If we lecture and try to finish the course material on time, then the students may not get it, and they will just, and I tell and they'll forget.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the first part of the science program.
Maybe this is a part, but actually activating students or getting them to do something usually takes much more time than just asking them to read something. So retention. Yeah. So that's one of the major issues. Long teaching hours, sometimes 50, sometimes 80-minute classes, and 18 hours of teaching of their week is too much for some students. And as research suggests that students' concentration during lectures or during regular classes started to decline after 10 to 15 minutes. That's for other students. What about repeaters? Okay, who don't have actually the motivation to come to the class and listen to the teacher. After this time, a significant proportion of the students either daydreaming, using their mobile phones, looking at the sky, counting the cars in the park.
So, marriage.
Yeah?
Thinking about marriage.
Okay. So we need to attract their attention to get them to do something. So another reason is the learning background. Most of our students, while the process of learning in primary, middle, and high school, they didn't learn any of these techniques before. Our students have never heard of skimming and scanning before. They never heard of pair and group work activities, especially if you are teaching students in Module 1. You find most of the students are not familiar with the structure or with the idea of working in pair or working in group or discussing something. This is completely away from their knowledge. So active learning strategies might help students be active and do something. Some of the activities or some of the strategies that we adapted for today is think, pair, share. Can you give me an idea what do you know about think, pair, share? I think that's a very common one.
The student thinks individually, and then he shares the pairs with another student, and they share the class.
Yeah, so you assign a task. A question could be for your students, like how to make Jeddah international city, how to increase the number of tourists in Jeddah or something like this, and you ask one student to think about it, and then share his idea with another student, and then in a larger group. Okay? So it actually gives the students a time to think and phrase his ideas, not just say something, because when you ask a question, students don't usually give them time to think about their answers. But in this activity, they have time to think individually and phrase the structure or the sentence that they would like to say to other partners. In this kind of activity, it's a collaborative learning strategy. It's effective in very large classes because it's a group work activity. It encourages students to be reflective about the course content, so they can look at the material, the reading passages, for example, and they can reflect on them or relate them to their own culture. It allows the students to privately formulate their thoughts before sharing them, so they need to think first. It can foster higher order thinking skills. Students might need to reflect on something, they might need to defend their own ideas sometimes. The next kind of activity is effective use of simulations. Simulations are getting students to act, do something, like For example, if you get one student to act as a cashier and the other one as a customer, something like this. Yeah. So simulations remain the most commonly used active learning method. They include mock conventions, assemblies, debates, role play. So it's not just role plays. The students sometimes may need to do a debate about, for example, I heard a few days ago that they will have the first cinema in Riyadh. So you might divide students into two groups, and then who agrees and who disagrees, and give reasons for this. So students not just think, they need also to defend their own views. Yeah.
Women driving.
Women driving, yeah, I think so. More important, studies using control groups shows that students perform better on quizzes. Okay, this is an important research. It shows that students who actually participated in activities scored higher in exams. Again, the same idea. Some students have better knowledge of the material and perform better on exams after participating in brief simulations. They remember more information over the long term after taking part in simulations, and actually the level of retention goes higher. Thus, simulations help students engage more deeply with course material, understand complexity, perform better on assignments, and then have better retain material over the time. The next kind of activity is understanding what's behind a written text. I mainly selected this kind of activity because I could see how useful it could be, especially for our repeaters classes. In many classes, I could see that most students already have the books, the old books that have the answers, and when the teacher asks students to do something, they have the answers, they are not willing to participate. Whenever the teacher asks, the students do answer, but they didn't do anything, they didn't read the activity. So for this kind of activity, you can ask students or you can prepare questions that are not there in the book, okay, or something that can be understood from the text, but it's not directly mentioned. The information may not be directly mentioned in the reading passage. So teaching reading texts to repeaters is a tough job for many teachers. Getting students to answer questions that have no direct answer in the text, could be used with some high-level students, but with lower-level students it could be challenging, I know. Getting them to say why. If they have an answer, just say why. Again, this is a little bit challenging. If it's for lower-level students, you might get them to retell. Okay, so they don't have to answer specific questions. Just read like the first paragraph and tell your team or the class what was it about. Okay, and then ask them to make their own questions. This could be done in a way that asking a group of students to create questions based on paragraph 1 and then pass the questions to the other group so that they can answer these questions. Or they can select specific sentences and then give it to the other group so they can also make questions to these sentences. So students don't just read the text, they also need to think about specific information and create questions, and may need to answer questions for this as well. The next kind of activity is infusing humor into class sessions. This kind of activity is a little bit could be interesting for some of our learners. I got this cartoon from the Saudi Gazette. It's available online. You can find lots of things like this. And again, this can be used with, good students, we can say. You can show them a cartoon and then ask them what it means. What is it about? Okay, what's the idea of this cartoon? So share the responsibility for bringing to class course an audience appropriate humor like cartoons, riddles, and jokes. You might ask some of the students again. This can be used only with high-level students. I mean, real level 3 or level 4 students. Okay, so they might need to translate jokes that they have in Arabic into English. They might need to tell riddles. They might need to bring cartoons and then explain it to their classmates. They are available online, as I said, in Saudi magazines like in the Saudi Gazette. Get them to bring cartoons and explain what it means to their classmates. The next one is integrating games and competitions into classrooms. So many of us, mashallah, use games. I've been to many classes and I've seen so many different games, and I can say that they are actually used effectively in some classrooms. But again, because some teachers, or I can say few teachers, just use the game for fun, for wasting the last, like 15 or 20 minutes of the class. They have to have a pedagogical game. You have a lesson, you have a grammar point or vocabulary or whatever the lesson is. Try to design the activity or select the game that matches this activity, that actually tests students' knowledge of this specific content that was taught in the previous class. So they provide the context for engagement. They are useful time fillers in long teaching days. They are flexible, motivating tools and an easy and fun way for evaluation. These are some examples. I mean, I also selected very few examples of games. I know you have, you know more than I do. The first one is Bad Fruit, or A Shopper's Nightmare. When you get two students to act something, one student has already bought a product from one of the shops and the product is faulty. He needs to go back to the shop and then argue with the shopkeeper to get his money back or to replace the product. And that's good for speaking. The next one is What is the question? This is good for grammar. You can ask students to make questions, create questions, like I said, the previous one, asking students to make questions, maybe in the present, in the past, and the future, according to the tense. Story completion, you can get students into groups and then give them only the beginning and the ending of the story, and then ask them to create the story. Like, for example, Ahmed leaves home every day at 8:30 and comes back at 4. On that day, he left at 8:30, but he never came back. So what happened to Ahmed? Within your group, think. The students need to take notes, and then they might come out and read and tell their own story. So it's writing and speaking at the same time. Hangman, I think you know Hangman. I mean, I've seen it in many classes. It's a vocabulary exercise. You draw a man, and then you draw part of the man who's being hanged. Okay, for every single error students make, you add one part of the body. If the body is complete, the man is dead, and then they lose. If they manage to tell the words, okay, if they manage to tell the words before the man dies, yeah, they saved his life, and they get 1 point. The sentence phrase, again, this is a vocabulary and could be used also for grammar. Just giving a group of students vocabulary and then asking them to look at the vocabulary, put it in a complete sentence within the group, and then run quickly to the board to write the board. If the sentence if there is a spelling mistake or a grammatical mistake, they lose a point. So the students need together to think of the word, put it in a sentence, run quickly to the board, and write it in correct form. Okay, these are just some examples. Okay, now we are going to work in groups of 5. Okay, in your group, using the English Unlimited, I brought some books for you. Discuss the most effective active learning strategy that you tried and proved to be beneficial in your class. So within your group, I want you to select. It could be one of the strategies that we've mentioned here, or one of the strategies that you already know, because there are so many others. Okay? And you think that this is really effective. We are going to share experiences now. So I tried this in my class and it worked well. I think it's beneficial. All other teachers here could make use of it. Okay? Choose one activity from the book that I'm going to give you and to try to apply this strategy that you agree that is beneficial to the learners, and then design the activity based on this strategy. And then one member from each group will come out here and explain this activity that he thinks or the group thinks it works well for their students. Okay? These are the 5 activities that I mentioned: think, pair, share, simulations, what is behind text, infusing humor, or games. You can select one of these strategies, or if you have other strategies, as I said, there are too many, you can also add it to the group. Okay, and then you come here and share it with everybody. So we are going to work in groups of 5. The task is clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you please work in group of 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you work here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You work here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Group of 5, please. So 1, 2, Unfortunately, I don't have enough experience. I've been observing like 4 years. So, we don't have enough time for this, so just 5 minutes, please. Okay? 5 minutes. Yeah, you choose
Abdul, why are you standing? This is the group of geniuses that we are expecting the best.
Share with your colleague and then share with the class.
It is.
like to present first? Just 2 minutes for each group. experience and see what works well in our classroom. So let's listen to Brother Simon.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, we chose the strategy think, pair and share. We found a topic in Unit 2, it's called Away from Home. So the question that we were going to give the students was, what are some problems or what are the main problems Saudi students may face if they study in the West, if it's a level 1 or 4 group, or we can just say the USA if it's a level 1 group, or grade the language according to the students. So they think about it, they reflect upon it, they come up with some ideas, they pair up with a partner, they share their ideas, and then they present it to the group. And that's how you... Sorry?
To the group or to the class?
To the group.
Yeah, so they think about it first individually, they pair up with their buddy, and then they share it with their group, or a bigger group, or the whole class, or they present it or something. And I think that ticks all the boxes.
Brother Abdulaziz, something to share?
So we choose to deal with level 1. We are using 2 strategies, not only one, which is...
This is the group of genius.
We are using games and infusing humor.
Okay.
We just want to make it practice better.
Okay.
So I'm going to make some gestures, our daily routine activities, and you are going to guess what is it.
Okay. Wow.
What's the word? Play. Could you give me a noun that goes with the play right now? Football. Now, tennis. Yeah. Now give me a noun that doesn't go at all with play. Play, swim. Is it correct?
No.
Yeah. So can you laugh at it? Sometimes it goes. But you laugh at it. Okay. Second one.
Talk.
Speak. Say.
So give me a noun that goes with speak. Go English. A noun that doesn't go at all.
Speak what?
Speak nice. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Another one. Listen. Noun that goes. Quran. If we know. Listen. Right. Exactly this one. We try to make the students memorize and recapitulate the words they sing. Meanwhile, we are having